We live in a fantasy world now. Reality has been destroyed.
This is the time that you really need to pay attention.
The probabilities are overwhelmingly on gold's side.
That is the best environment to see gold increase its value.
Welcome to Palisades Gold Radio. I'm your host, Tom Bodrovics. Joining me today is Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal. He has 42 years experience as a trend forecaster and the founder of the Trends Research Institute. He's also the author of the best-selling books, Trends 2000 and Trends Tracking. Thanks for joining me today, Gerald.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
So on the cover of your latest issue of the Trends Journal, it states that we've all been Shanghai'd. So what do you mean by that, and how has it really affected the world here? Think
of when the coronavirus broke out. It was January 2020, the year of the rat, Chinese Lunar New Year. That's when it broke out. I used to be on Hong Kong TV in 2019. There were protests going on there. They couldn't stop them. And I'd say to the guys, I'd be on like 20 minutes. We take a break. I said, so what's going on? Mr. Celente, we're not stopping. We're going to keep fighting. This is a city of 7.5 million people, 7.5 million. Mm-hmm. 1 million we're taking to the streets, 1 million out of 7.5 million. You can't get 1 million people in America out of 332 million out into the streets. The virus breaks out in the city of Yuan. They show these pictures, people falling down. Lockdown Yuan, lockdown Hong Kong, lockdown a couple of other places. But protests are over, bye-bye. Passed the Security Act, was finished. Mm-hmm. Then what happens? Next country, Italy. Boom, lockstep. They start locking down everything. Again, I put out a magazine. This week's 175 pages. Only put the facts in there. Then we give the trend forecast and the analysis. Okay. What was the average age of the people dying in Italy? Oh, about 81 years old. Why? Of course we have to lock down everything. They could have lived to 82. Oh, what's the average age of death in the United States? I think it's now down to 76 years of age. Mm-hmm. 76.6, right. Because I figured it out the way things are going now. I got another year. Anyway, then one country after another making up this crap. Remember the arrogant little boys and girls that came up with the lines, we're going to flatten the curve. And we're going to put businesses out of business. We're going to lock you down. And I'll tell you who's essential. I'm some little piece of crap. I'm some political garbage can. I'll tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, I'm going to lock you up. And here most people followed. Oh, remember the vaccines they were selling? Oh, yeah. 95% efficacy rate. Oh, now you got to get 3 shots and a booster. And all the clown, arrogant, I love this word, celebrities. Yeah, screw you as celebrity. If you play somebody else who you're not, what's a celebrity shit you're trying to shove down my throat? Oh, I'm Sean Penn. Yeah, a little pencil. Get that vaccination. Get that. Hey, you got COVID. Hey, Trudeau got COVID. You got vaccinated. Pelosi got COVID. You got vaccinated. Arrogant Adams over here, the mayor of New York City, vaccinated, got COVID. That guy, Peter Schiff over there, not Peter Schiff, he's a good guy. Adam Schiff, the clown playing a representative in California. Boy, yes, I got COVID, but I got all the vaccines and I got boosted. Am I happy? You should get vaccinated too. Who are you talking to? What I'm telling you is that we become the Chinese way. You used to make fun of the Chinese for wearing masks. They wore them because the air is so damn polluted. We made fun of the Chinese for locking down cities. And now we lock them down. We made fun of the Chinese because the people have no freedom. And we don't either. Shut down your church. No people in there. I'm some little, and I love these little arrogant clowns they call bureaucrats. They spell the name wrong. They're bureaucrats. They're little pieces of crap that can't get a job in the real world. They suck into the political system so they can get a job. And boy, do they become arrogant. Bureaucrats. Hey, in the United States, they just announced the CDC. You got to wear those masks on an airplane until May 3rd. Hey, how come not May 4th? Hey, I say May 5th. Why May 3rd? Why May 3rd? Oh, I'm in charge. I'll tell you. Well, why not May 1st? Because we're making the crap up. And you do as we tell you to do. All right, the Chinese way. You must obey.
Gerald, I've heard you speak about how you see that tied into the repo crisis as well. Of course, in the fall of 2019, we saw the repo market freeze up. Does that tie into the way that played out, do you think?
I really don't. But what did play out after, again, what the repo showed you how rigged the goddamn game is. Mm-hmm. They pumped $7 trillion into the markets from September 2019 to the middle of January 2020. Repo markets to give the rich more money to gamble. Repo markets. Well, let's make up a word. We'll put a little crap word in there that people will swallow. Go back to 2018. Go back to December 2018. The markets were crashing. Trump pushed the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. And they artificially boosted them up. And then even that couldn't do it. That's where the repo thing happened. Now let's go into 2020. They locked down the world. And equity markets are going up. What am I, 6 years old? Economies aren't crashing. Oh, no, we're going to keep dumping in all this cheap money. Keep dumping in all the cheap money. We'll make up any crap we want. Look, the people are, my father, may rest in peace. I get upset about stuff as a young kid. And he said to me, son, take it easy. People have little minds. Dumb enough to believe Bush's wars. We're going to get that guy, Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. Yeah. I'm going after him. Osama bin Laden tried to kill my daddy, so I'm going to get him. I'm not making this up. Mm-hmm. People followed him. 88% of the people supported the Afghan war. Oh, what preceded the Afghan war? Oh, you mean the NASDAQ was down 66% before 9/11 because of the dot-com bust that happened in March of 2000? Oh, you mean World War II started after the Great Depression? Oh, now read the magazine. We said it a long time ago. When all else fails, they take you to war. The markets are going down at the beginning of this year. Mm-hmm. Everybody's mind's off it now. When all else fails, they take you to war. We went from the COVID war to the Ukraine war, and now we're going to World War III.
So far this week, Gerald, we've seen a new high for CPI inflation at 8.5%. And today, as we speak on Wednesday, the 13th, PPI was released at 11.2% year over year. So do you think that the way the Fed is calculating inflation currently is accurate?
It's fake. You go to, for the real numbers, you go to John Williams' shadow stats. It's double that. It's more than double that. What they do is housing prices went up like 20%. We're not going to put that in the inflation number. Oh, we'll just go by the basket of what people are buying. Oh, wait a minute. I used to buy steak, but now I'm eating chopped meat. No, it doesn't make any difference. Prices didn't go up. You went from steak to chopped meat, so the prices didn't go up. You changed your lifestyle, the prices didn't go up. We're only going by the basket of what you're buying. Mm-hmm. They rigged the game because the Social Security numbers are based on CPI. The higher CPI, the more Social Security you get. So rather than give the workers of slave landing the money that they put into it, we're going to screw you out of it. And we're also going to keep your numbers artificially low so we can keep interest rates low. So the bankster gang can keep borrowing money for nothing. The bigs can keep getting bigger, borrowing money, and put everybody else out of business. Merger and acquisition activity in 2021 was the highest ever. All the cheap dough. Stock buybacks, whoop, another record, 2021. So that's what they're doing. They're just dumping the cheap money in. And I really don't think that the COVID had anything to do with this. What the COVID did, it robbed us of our freedom and shows the people that we're nothing more than workers on the global plantation of Slavelandia. We have no freedom. It's been robbed from us. Our constitutions, our Bill of Rights mean absolutely nothing.
So, Gerald, do you see inflation continuing to climb like this? Or is it possible that as we start making the year-over-year comparisons to a higher inflationary environment from last year, that the optics of that picture start to improve, yet price levels and damage to the purchasing power of most families has already been destroyed?
It's going to get worse because the clowns running the show, we got Biden over here. We're going to put those sanctions on Russia. Oh, Russia and Ukraine. Okay, great. Sanctions, the wheat prices, barley prices, sunflower oil, palladium, keep going down the list. And they're pushing them up higher. And as you mentioned, they were going up before this. And again, showing the liars that they are. Remember, go back to the Fed head, Jerome Powell, over a year ago. Inflation is only temporary. It kept going up. Well, it's transitory. And now, I guess with the proper today, you got to call it transgendatory, maybe. Make up any crap we want. Here's the deal. We're talking about the inflation numbers. So let's just say, the PPI, which is 11.5, like a record number, right?
Yeah.
According to the IMF, interest rates should be 1% above inflation. Mm-hmm. They just said that 2 weeks ago when they forced Argentina to raise their interest rates to 44.5%. It was because inflation was running at 43.5. So that means that in the United States, our interest rate should be 12.5%. But no, we're going to raise them dramatically. We may raise them 50 basis points by May. Mm-hmm. They're keeping the game going because they know when they stop the monetary methadone from flooding into the system, the money junkies are going to crash.
That's actually something I wanted to ask you about, Gerald, is, I've heard you speak about how the IMF requires countries like Argentina, like you mentioned, to be 1% above their inflation rate. So why doesn't that apply to the US?
Because murderers and thieves are running a government near you. Imbeciles and morons call them a government. They're a crime syndicate. Got it? Oh, it's Easter time. Well, Easter, what's this guy's name with Jesus Christ? Oh, made a whip. You couldn't buy them at Walmart's in those days. And drove the money changers out of the temple. Oh, that Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, became violent because what the bankers were doing to the people? Oh, then 3 days later, wasn't a great Friday, but they called it Good Friday. He's hanging on the cross. All right? That's who's running the show. It's a crime syndicate. The military-industrial complex. We're going to keep sending more weapons over there to the Ukrainians to fight the Russians. Only $2 billion of our dough just went over there. Sent $40 billion between United States and NATO since they overthrew the government over there in 2014. But don't worry about it. Again, banksters, big tech, drug dealers that morons and imbeciles call big pharma, and the banksters are in control of a country near you.
So do you see the Fed being hawkish on inflation and continuing to raise interest rates until they kill the economy like they did in the 80s? Or is there no political appetite to really stomach a fall in the stock market because of the wealth effect?
They're going to have to raise them. They're going to have to raise them. And even if they go up, my breakout point is even if they hit 3.5%, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's over.
So how do you see that affecting the housing market as well? Are we going to see a full-fledged crash like we saw in 2008?
No, I don't see that. Again, there's always the wild card that can make it worse. But the cards that are being played now, I don't see that. Like a wild card was who would have thought that Russia would have invaded Ukraine, And that's why when people call me a futurist, I said, nobody can predict the future. There are too many wild cards, whether they're man-made or made by nature. Mm-hmm. So no, I don't see that happening, but I do see prices going down. But again, if inflation keeps skyrocketing, they're not going to go down that much. I was, the magazine, the Trends Journal, the one that came out yesterday, I wrote the thing. When I was a kid, 65 years ago, I was 10 years old. Buy a slice of pizza and a glass of soda, a cup of soda for 25 cents. The average price now for a slice of pizza in New York City, $3.26. So this inflation is real. So it's going to artificially keep the prices up. And what's going to go down, I really forecast big and hard, is the office commercial sectors of businesses, of cities. I went down to New York, man, last week. Rush hour traffic, on the west side going north on the West Side Drive, there was not one car between, as I'm going across town, I look back, not one car between 51st and 57th Street at rush hour, 5:15 p.m. Used to take 40 minutes to go across town. Took us 12 minutes to where we wanted to go. The streets are dead at night. The diners used to be open all around the outside 24 hours a day. Now they're closing at 10 o'clock at night. The streets are dead at night. Where I am over here in Kingston, as I'm looking out the window, you could not get a parking space out here before COVID. Mm-hmm. With everybody was talking about, we have to build more parking garages. We have to park anywhere you want, anytime, any day. These politicians, and you're not getting this in the media, they have destroyed the economy to levels that are unimaginable. And we put the data in the magazine. What in the world is going on, what it means, what's next, and what to do. Mm-hmm. They're not putting this stuff out there. The streets are dead. They're dead. You got 7 o'clock at night. I went out last Saturday, went somewhere on a major, road over here. We counted 8 cars within about 7 miles. 8 cars, 7 o'clock at night. Top end restaurant where billionaires and millionaires go. By 8:30, emptying out. One and a half serve, and that was it. The bar by 8 o'clock. I like to sit at the bar with my lady, because it'd be close. And by 8 o'clock, there were only 4 people sitting at a 12-seat bar.
Yeah, it's such a shame. And when we go back and think about your piece of pizza and your soda, that's, as we adjust with the hedonic adjustment index, that means it's a much better piece of pizza now. It must come with a hell of a lot more ingredients now than it did back then, right?
And much finer quality product,
All those extra ingredients that it has now, right?
Oh, sure. And nothing like GMOs, they didn't have them back then. Now all those artificial flavors and artificial colors that we have now, that add a whole different level to it.
Mm-hmm. So, Gerald, while we're on the topic of public perception versus reality, how skewed do you think the mainstream message is that most people are getting about the conflict in Ukraine? For example, what is really going on there?
They lie all the time. Look, go back to the mainstream media. Remember the Maine? Did you ever hear that expression? Mm-hmm. That's when the United States invaded Cuba. They made up the story that the Spanish, who were controlling Cuba back then, blew up the battleship, the Maine. Mm-hmm. Remember the Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam that never happened? How about Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda that never existed? The media, people call them the media, they're prostitutes. They're media whores. They're little boys and girls that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and their government whore masters. It's not journalism. They're prostitutes. You're not getting the news. Again, here, this is from Trends Journal, 2014. How the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine. Victoria Nuland and John McCain passing out cookies in Madison Square because Yanukovych made a deal with the IMF and the EU. They needed money. They've been going broke since the Soviet Union broke up. And Putin gave him a better deal. He went with the Putin deal and they overthrew the country. Write about the details of how the deal made between Gorbachev and Bush Sr. and James Baker, the quote from the National Archives. NATO would not, quote, move 1 inch further. There were 16 NATO countries back then. There are only 30 today. And now they're talking about 2 more even joining. Mm-hmm. So now up in Canada, up there, if it was filled with Russians and they had missiles shooting into the United States, aimed at the United States, and down in Mexico, there were Chinese with missiles. Oh, yeah, we'd be really happy about that. And then when the Donbass, when the revolution started over there, the Eastern Europe, the Eastern Ukraine broke up. It was Russian. They speak Russian. They're Russian. And so the Donbass region, they made the Minsk agreement that Zelensky and they used to call neocons, but they don't anymore because they whitewashed it, wouldn't live by it. Mm-hmm. I'm totally opposed to Russia's invasion, totally opposed to it. But I totally understand why it happened. Mm-hmm. And for the United States, Canada, NATO to condemn Russia for the acts of crime and wars that they've committed, you want to talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Hey, you guys did a great job in Yugoslavia, huh? Nah, I like what you did in Afghanistan better. Nah, give us Iraq. Hey, how about Libya? That guy Gaddafi has to go. We'll destroy the richest country in Africa. Yeah, where the people had more rights and benefits in a lot of places around the world. Mm-hmm. What hypocrites. What hypocrites. Putin got a long way to catch up to the millions of murders that the United States and their NATO allies have committed since World War II.
So, Gerald, how do you see this playing out? As a trends forecaster, do you see the implosion of Japan's currency right now kind of starting a chain, maybe followed by the EU and then that crisis kind of coming into the US?
Yes, I definitely see a crisis coming. The when is, it's to us, it's when China gains more economic strength. The tipping point will definitely be, as we see it, when the Chinese economy becomes larger than the United States economy. Mm-hmm. And that's not too far in the future. But right now, the yuan represents only about 3% of the exchanges going on. And so the euro is there, but the euros are going to go down. Here's the bet. Place your bet. China and Russia versus US and NATO. The winner is?
My money's on the East, considering just from a, let's say, a planning standpoint. If you have the ability to execute on a 30-year plan instead of these 4-year cycles, that probably 2 years of that is wasted campaigning and yammering. I can see the ability of a system like that having benefits over a very short-term, short-sighted system. Not that I'm saying that what the Chinese people experience is any better or worse than
it's terrible
than what we experience over here. Yeah. But just simply from a strategic standpoint, it's a lot better.
Yep. So again, that's the deal. This is just a bet. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that as tough as I love all this crap spewing out of these intelligence. That's an oxymoron. And these military experts never won a war since World War II. So take it easy. That's like being a ball player and striking out every time you go up to bat. And now you're going to tell me how to hit a home run? Who the hell are you talking to? Oh, those Russians, this is going on 1 month. Oh, 1 month. How long were you in Afghanistan? You couldn't beat 89,000 guys, with hardly any sophisticated weapons. And you're talking about Russia not being able to, as you're sending in all these war armaments. So my greatest fear is World War III. It's on the horizon. Mm-hmm. You read the headlines. Read the headlines. How NATO's building up. How more and more weapons are going into Ukraine. We're going to send more lethal weapons. He actually used the word lethal weapons. Oh, kill more people. You're going to have losers here. There's winners and losers. End it before it's over. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a winner and a loser. Who's going to be the winner and the loser? There's no talk about peace. Not a word. Zip. Nada. And by the way, I'm having a big rally here on May 28th in Kingston, New York, on the most historic four corners in America, the only place with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings where the seeds of democracy was sown, the four corners of freedom. I'm going to have Judge Napolitano is going to be one of the speakers here. So I'm fighting for freedom. Freedom, 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 freedom.
Excellent. Well, hopefully anybody around there can make that. Gerald,
well, not around here. They come when I hold these. They come from Canada. Nate, you won't be able to come now if you're not vaccinated. But in the old days, they could.
Mm-hmm. So, Gerald, before we wrap up here, since it's been such a long time since we've had you on the show, can you remind our listeners what you see as a really safe haven assets to help get us through these dark times?
Again, I don't give financial advice. For me, it's gold, silver, and Bitcoin in that order. Gold number one, silver number two, and Bitcoin to play the game, to gamble the game. And I want to make this really clear for everybody to hear. I said that we were at the beginning of World War III. World War II happened ended 1 year before I was born. It ain't ancient history. Top of the civilizations were wiped out. In the 1930s, Germany was at the top of Western civilization, culturally, scientifically, philosophically. Gone. Berlin bombed out. Bye-bye Dresden. Oh, you talk about mass murder and genocide? They call it genocide, of course, isn't happening. That's when you target a race or whatever. They're not doing that, but that's what Biden said. What did you kill? About 200,000 people in Dresden, where all the refugees were going to escape the war? Oh, how about Truman's atom bombs over there in Nagasaki and Hiroshima? They killed all those innocent people. I'm going back to World War III has begun. It goes off like that. So I'm mentioning this because here we are doing this interview, and all of a sudden, Gerald, they just heard that Wall Street was hit and they closed down the banks. Go back to 9/11. I remember when it happened, watching television, this arrogant guy on CNBC said, well, we're going to take a break. A plane hit the World Trade Center. Let's not get excited about this. We're going to see what. Then they go down there. I'm watching it, having a cup of coffee, and boom. First thing I did, picked up the telephone, and I called my former girlfriend at the time, Marie-Pierre. She was from Paris, but she was living up near me in Rhinebeck. And her brother, Francois, was the left shoulder of Jacques Chirac and Mitterrand. And my close combat teacher, John Perkins, used to go work out with the guys at Palisades. Marie-Pierre, get your money out of the bank. This is the World Trade Center. They said that the planes were going down the Hudson River. Right north of New York City is the nuclear power plant at Indian Point. I said, if they hit that nuclear power plant, there's going to be chaos like you can never see. They wouldn't give her money, but her being her, and that's why I mentioned who she comes from, she got her money. Number two, I called up the bank where I had CDs, certificates of deposit. You used to get money on interest rates back then. That's a funny word that people never heard of anymore. But when you put your money in the bank, you used to get something back for it. I call them up. I want my CDs transferred to the Rhinebeck Bank. I'm sorry, Mr. Celente, Wall Street's closed. You can't get your money. I had my guns, gold, and a getaway plan. I got my gold. I had my gun, filled up jerry jugs with water, with gasoline. I'm about 4.5 hours from the Canadian border, had maps to take back roads because I figured they'd close down the main ones. I'd sneak over the Canadian border, and from there I could go wherever I wanted to. I had a guns, gold, and a getaway plan. I'm mentioning this because if we hear that something happened, we're closing down our banks, the Russians have hacked into them, you can't get your money. Why would you keep your money in a bank when they're not giving you anything for it? I have my money in another place, not too far, where I can get it and nobody else can. Got my gun, got my gold, and I got my getaway plan. Prepare for the worst. Prepare for the worst. If the worst doesn't happen and you're prepared, you lose nothing. If the worst happens and you're not prepared, you lose everything.
Well, some sage advice there, Gerald. Of course, your website is trendsresearch.com, and people can also follow you on Twitter at Gerald Celente, and your Substack as well as trendsinthenews.substack.com. Gerald, I want to thank you so much for your time and your advice today.
Well, thank you. And again, the magazine is Trends Journal at trendsjournal.com. You see it. There's no magazine like it. We're preparing people for what's ahead, and we only put the facts down. And the motto of the magazine is think for yourself. So thank you.
That's something that is in short supply at this time in history and needs to be reinforced. So thanks for that, Gerald.
Thank you.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be taken as investment advice. Guests on this show are not compensated for their appearance. Listeners are urged to educate themselves and make their own decisions. Do not base any investment decisions on the information contained. To view our full disclaimer, please visit our website.